Hello guys, before I talk about Gauntlet of Fire, I want to point out that I also uploaded my On Your Marks reviews the other day. It's a week late and I don't want people to skip it. I collabed with Grey Silvermane and I'm pretty proud of it. So just click here or the link in the description. And now let's begin. Spike episodes tend to have weaknesses, to put it lightly. Usually he acts like an idiot, is responsible for everything that goes wrong, embarrasses himself, seems like a wimp, and all the episode focuses only on his flaws. As a result, even the arguably good ones don't have the best reputation. Especially Princess Spike was insulting, as Spike was written actually pretty well, but the entire universe was bent on torturing him. But now we have Gauntlet of Fire. It actually avoids the usual Spike episode traps and manages to highlight Spike's strengths. This alone makes this episode worth a watch. Okay, he does show fear and doesn't want to compete in the Gauntlet of Fire at first, but that's more than understandable as the other ranks are much more threatening than him, not to mention that his past experiences with them weren't exactly positive. But as soon he realizes that Equestria might be in danger if the wrong dragon, or in his perception any other dragon than him, wins the competition, he forgets his fears and shows his courage. This is one of Spike's greatest strengths. He's dutiful and always willing to face his fears and protect others. The last time we saw the side of him was during the Equestria games. Spike is a good guy that is very different from most dragons. This is perhaps best shown when he helps Gabel. While every other dragon is more concerned to take out competitions, Spike is willing to help a jerk and rival like him. While we are at it, let's talk about dragons. After all, one of the best things about this episode is that we learn more about them. Most of them are still pretty one-note. They are all jerks, with the sole exception of Princess Ember and maybe her father Lord Torch. While he certainly is no nice person, he was okay with Spike leaving and had apparently no ambitions to attack ponies. Okay, maybe he just knew better than to mess with the princess who controls his son. The variety of new dragon designs were pretty awesome, and it was really cool to see that there is actually something like a dragon lord, someone who rules over all dragons. Though it is kinda weird that only teenage dragons bother to show up, especially since Lord Torch emphasized that only the biggest and strongest dragons are fit to rule. So the question is, where are all the big dragons we saw in prior episodes? Okay, there is a possible explanation, even though it might be a little bit far-fetched. First of all, they stated in this episode that only the dragons of Equestria are summoned by Lord Torch. And while we see a lot of dragons in Dragon's Quest, they were only there because of the dragon migration. So it's entirely possible that most of them live outside of Equestria. And back in season 1 we learned that the dragon can sleep for a century. So just let's assume that every other big dragon didn't show up because they are either not in Equestria or asleep. Still need some willing suspension of disbelief, but I can roll with it. In the same way, I assume that Lord Torch retires because he plans to take a nap for a couple of centuries as well. I also want to add that I can kinda accept that all dragons are loners. I really disliked that one about Griffinstone when the episode told us that Griffins are all greedy jerks who don't want to make any friends. I really don't like to put a hat on an entire race like that. However, it works better here for one simple reason. Dragons don't live in communities. Griffins live together in cities, so social interactions between them are necessary. However, dragons are seemingly more like solitary animals. They live for themselves and go their own way. Not to mention that they are pretty rare if those group is supposed to be the entirety of dragonkind in Equestria. They all do their own thing. Maybe a few teenage dragons hang out together and they do mate eventually. But your average dragon usually doesn't meet many of his kind under normal circumstances. While the Dragon Lord apparently rules over them, it seems like there is some sort of magic at work that allows the current Dragon Lord to order them around, and most of them probably only showed up because they had to, like Spike. I wonder how the scepter fits into the whole thing. It is obviously magical, but I wonder, is it only a ceremonial item or is it the scepter that allows the Dragon Lord to command its kind? What if a pony gets its hoof on it? Would that pony become the Dragon Lord and gain the ability to order dragons around? So many questions, and we'll probably never get an answer. Garble is still the one-note bully he was in Dragon's Quest, but unlike that episode, he didn't overstay his welcome. Instead, he worked pretty well as a rival and is actually pretty funny at times. It is also worth noting that he was absolutely about to kill Rarity and Twilight, not that he would have stand much of a chance if Twilight remembered that she is a powerful Alicorn princess. I just assumed that she was caught off guard and was intimidated at this very moment. Speaking of which, those two didn't really fulfill any role in this episode. I understand why they were there, but they didn't really add anything. They don't affect the plot in the slightest. However, it would seem out of character for them to let Spike go on his own. I can imagine that some are upset that they didn't really help Spike, save for moral support, but if they had, this would undermine the whole thing. It's a contest after all. If they were to interfere, it would have been equal to cheating, and that would send the wrong message. It also showed that they grew to trust Spike to handle such a situation. Of course, I'm pretty sure that they kept an eye on him. If his life had been in danger at any moment, they would have probably saved him, but luckily Spike needs their help in the end, not to mention that they provided some admittedly funny comic relief. So I can get those two off the hook, even if I have some problems with Princess Twilight Sparkle being afraid of one teenage dragon. However, the cameo of Luna and Celestia in the beginning really feels wasted. I always like to see them, and it was kinda nice to see that the princesses meet up for a friendly cup of tea, but they only gave some exposition. While Twilight barely had any information about dragons, it wouldn't be too far out there that she knows something about the core of the Dragon Lord. Okay, and now let's talk about Princess Amber, or Dragon Lord Amber now. I really like her. She has a pretty neat design and I have a thing for the somewhat boyish, rebellious princess. But I had a small talk with A and Y the other day and he brought up a valid point of criticism. This episode tells us that she is smarter than the other dragons, but she doesn't really show that much intellect, making it somewhat of an informed attribute. Au contraire, she almost lost her life thanks to her hot-headedness. But she doesn't really do anything stupid either, nor does she seem really dumb. Maybe they just chose the wrong words to describe her, as a characteristic that really sets Amber apart from other dragons are her kindness and her willingness to work with others. While she needs some time to embrace the idea of friendship, because it's something completely new to her, she was relatively nice to Spike from the very beginning and quickly formed a bond with him. While she is quite hot-headed, she also realized that she met her limits and needs Spike's help to proceed. She is willing to accept that she can achieve more by working with others, even things that would be otherwise impossible. And she is willing to sacrifice her own desire for those she cares about, as seen when she saves Spike, Rarity and Twilight from Garble. She could have just taken the scepter while Garble was occupied with them, but she decided to help Spike and his friends instead. While she still has much to learn, those are all good qualities for a leader. I really hope that we'll see her growth in future episodes, and I also want to add that she is so tsundere. While there wasn't that much ship-tease in this episode, I really like the idea of Spike and Amber hooking up. I think they have a pretty good chemistry, and let's face it, an interspecies relationship between Spike and Rarity is kinda weird. But tricky, she's obviously older than Spike. And what if dragons age differently than ponies has proven in Secret of My Access, as far as we know, she might actually be younger than Spike. The growth of a dragon is linked to its possession and greed. Thanks to his lifestyle, Spike simply doesn't grow. I could go into more detail about shipping, but I'd rather wrap things up. Gauntlet of Fire is a really good episode. While it's not the funniest MLP episode ever, it has some comedic highlights. We learn a few cool facts about dragons, see some really cool designs, Amber's a really cool character, and I really hope to see her again. But most importantly, this episode treats Spike with respect. It's one of the few episodes that actually highlights his virtues and not his flaws. He acts heroic and not dumb. He even becomes a Dragon Lord for about 12 seconds. After an already strong performance in the Crystalling, Season 6 might be what Season 5 was for Fluttershy. Let's hope that the next Spike episode is of similar quality. But what about you? Did you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? Do you prefer Spamber or Sparity? Let me know in the comments. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.
Sly as a fox, you got me under your spell. But you know I'll never tell that I know you know so well.